It's Wednesday. So you know what that means? Yeah, Wine Wednesday. Join your host, James McGee, for a glass of wine and discussion about current events. No matter what's going on in the world, it's easier to swallow mixed with some wine.
Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee, and it is Wine Wednesday. Look at my man. So we didn't have Two Finger last night, so we're doing Wine Wednesday tonight. We got some things that are important to us to talk about, and something I have been on a rant about, Tommy, for the last couple of days. First off, let's talk about what we're drinking. I know you just got in from work, so I don't know what you're drinking. No, you don't drink wine, but what are you drinking?
I don't drink wine. I'm having a very nice. It's not an Ohio specialty, but I am drinking Royal Crown Cola.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, you got to go back to work.
I have to work in the morning, so I never drink, like less than 12 hours before my shift. But I am drinking Royal Crown Cola. I thought this was a very close, it's a bourbon lookalike, and it has a name that I thought would work well tonight.
Well, we're happy about that. I know the people in the train route are happy about that too. So
yes.
So I am on this brandy kick here lately.
Really?
Brandy is technically wine, so I'm drinking Tuaca brandy. I've been drinking it. I just like it. It's a really good after dinner drink. We normally record after dinner, so I enjoy it. And of course, my wine glass from our friends Engraved in USA and Rich Crumman.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to them.
I need to get my set so I can join you as we do the show.
You ain't got your set yet from Rich?
What's that?
You haven't got your set yet from Rich?
Not yet.
Oh, wait. Before we get into this, you're not far from Springfield, Ohio. That's been on the national news. So I want to ask you, you're a cat guy. How's your cat? You got a location on your cat?
He's doing great, although I did right before the show. Strangely enough, I had 2 slices of bread, and I was looking at him, and I thought, boy, he sure looks yummy.
Tommy, are they eating the fucking cats in Springfield?
I don't know, but I'm going to find out for next week's show. I am going to find out for sure. I'm going to figure out some contact up there, and I will find out if they are eating domestic animals in Springfield. I can tell you, I saw a picture of a guy carrying a Canadian goose, and he looked hungry. So I don't know, but I do know that they've had a huge infusion of West or East African immigrants there, and they've been putting them up in hotels.
Yeah,
and that's caused a little bit of a stir there. But I will have to do some more research. I was a little caught off guard today. When I heard the former president last night talking when he invoked Springfield, and I was like, what's he talking about? And then when I realized he was talking about Springfield, Ohio, I immediately thought, oh, yeah.
Well, Springfield made the presidential debate last night because of it.
Pretty impressive. Only 45 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
The heartland of America.
Well, let's dive into our subject for tonight. So Sunday morning, on his way to Dolphin Stadium, Tyreek Hill, who's wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, was pulled over by Miami-Dade Police Department. He was driving reckless. There's been reports of that he was driving 100 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. That really is irrelevant. If you watch the video, he was driving fast. They got on the side of him, pulled him over, and it just went to shit. He was belligerent with the officers. I'm going to tell you that, my opinion, there's a difference between being wrong and could have done things differently. They could have done some things differently, in my opinion, but I don't think they were wrong. And you and I have talked about this, Tommy and Joe. We've talked about this a lot when it comes to use of force. What does it always start with?
Non-compliance.
Then people it pisses me off because people don't get it.
And we did not discuss this before the show. We just both know that's what it is.
It's just the way it is. I'm sick of, and this is what I'm pissed off about, because you've got people like, and let me tell you, I listen to Shannon Sharp. He made some good points. I listen to Ocho Cinco. I like Ocho a lot. They made some good points, and they weren't all on Hill's side. Even Stephen A. Smith made some really good points. But what pisses me off, if you got Drew Rosenhaus, who is just he's a charlatan, man.
Yeah.
And Tyreek Hill, Tyreek now is on this big kick about changing how police officers interact. Who the fuck are you? And demanding that this officer is fired. And Drew Rosenhaus the same way. Who the fuck are you?
Especially when he acknowledges that he was wrong and shouldn't have failed to comply.
Well, he did one of those. I'm wrong, but
Right.
you know, and you always mess up a good apology with an excuse.
Yes.
And he didn't apologize, and he's demanded. And my take is this, Tommy, is that people like us who are retired and can say what we want now, we've got to speak up. And there's other people I called out, in which Dan Bongino's great. He always takes up for cause. Brandon Tatum the same way. They showed their hand. They're going to try to this officer is going to end up being a scapegoat. He's going to end up being a political pawn because you've got some very powerful people. The Miami Dolphins, who I've been a Dolphins fan since I was little. I'm done with them. They immediately issue a statement supporting Tyreek before the body cam came out.
Oh, that's today's NFL.
Yeah, the body cam comes out. Like I said, the officers could have done some things differently. But he was wrong. He caused this with his noncompliance.
I couldn't agree more. Well, the NFL has shown its colors already years ago by allowing, first they allow everybody, people like Colin Kaepernick and other players to kneel during the national anthem. Now the players are not supposed to be doing that. Otherwise they're going to get fined or, get in trouble. You have, the first game of last week. And I say this because I'm a patriotic person who cares about this country. I'm not saying this because it has anything to do with race at all, but I don't want to hear anybody's song or anybody's national anthem before the United States national anthem. I do not want to hear the black national anthem at a sporting event first. I don't care if they play it. It's fine. But the national anthem is how you start a sporting event in this country. And that was just like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. Well, I don't understand why any group, regardless of who they are, why any group feels that they deserve special treatment. It has nothing to do with equal treatment. Everyone should be treated well, and everybody should be given equal, standing in this country until proven otherwise. That's kind of how we, But again, I'm just so sick and tired of all these special interests being served at the expense of everybody else.
Well, there's no group in the last several years, probably since 2020, that has been judged and persecuted more than police. And here's the problem, and I'm calling out policemen and police organizations. Until we organize, until we take a stance, we're going to keep having cops who become scapegoats and political pawns because you have a very powerful, me and you have a voice, but man, we don't have the following Stephen A. Smith does, and Shannon Sharp, and
almost, but I know.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, but that's where the issue comes in, is that where the power is. Well, you know where the power is? The power is in numbers. And what I called for tonight on TikTok was Miami-Dade Police need to see, and every South Florida police agency needs to cease working security for the Miami Dolphins until this is resolved. And resolved is Tyreek Hill having to be held responsible for his part in this. Mm-hmm. And I have no issues because, like I said, the officers, there's some things they could have done different. Them being disciplined or dressed down for it, I'm okay with them being terminated because fucking Tyreek Hill, a wife beater and a child abuser, a proven wife beater and a child abuser, and Drew Rosenhaus, who's a scam artist, proven scam artist, because they're demanding it. Fuck you. That's cannot happen. And so policemen, well, how they gonna play these games without security?
They're not.
Because we keep fucking just doing whatever they tell us. So when we take a stance and say, you know what, we're fine. Y'all don't like the police. Y'all want to kneel. Y'all want to demand our officers are fired. secure your own fucking game. How about that?
Yep. Well, two things I want to kind of make a comment about. Number one is kind of off of what you were talking about, how police are being used as political scapegoats and how they're being vilified. You know what else? They're becoming dead because they fail to act when they need to act. Now, that's not saying that this officer or officers were in danger of their lives with Tyreek Hill, but what this is doing, and I'm going to give you an example here. The other day I saw a video, and I'm not going to say what department it was because this could be any department in the United States. It was a department that was called to an Amtrak train because there was apparently an unruly passenger on the train. And there's a video from the location. This is what I saw. And the person was being kicked off the train, basically. There were 3 police officers on the scene there. And the person was basically, they weren't resisting, but they weren't leaving. They were being, you could see the officers pointing at the person, telling them to leave. And all that person did was stand there with their camera up, recording what was going on. They would not move. And you could see the officer every time bringing his finger up, telling her to get back, go, go, go. And eventually he starts standing directly in front of her. So she basically can't record. And he keeps sort of slowly walking her backwards. And then she would stop. And then he'd slowly walk her backwards and she would stop. And this goes on for like 8 or 10 minutes before she finally is out of the video. And I'm sitting there thinking, why are you guys putting up with that bullshit? Arrest her. Okay. The officers in the video appeared to be white. The person that was the suspect in this situation was black. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but the bottom line is police officers are afraid to act because of what's happening in this country and what's been happening in this country for years. And that's what gets them hurt. And that's what gets crime rampant in areas, is because people know that the police will not do their jobs. I'll just one little rant and I'll turn it right back over to you. When I was on the job, I had no problem at all giving somebody a couple chances to comply with what I asked them to do. But if I had to ask you 3 times, you were going. That's all there is to it. We're not going to keep standing here, dicking around and saying, okay, I'm asking you just now, please go. No, if I ask you 3 times politely that you need to leave and you don't, you're going.
And when it goes down after you've been given those chances, it's going down fast and it's going down hard. Mm-hmm. That's how it's going to go.
Force is not pretty. It's swift and sure.
No,
it ceases when the resistance is overcome. It ceases, but it's not pretty. And it doesn't even mean you're going to use any kind of force of any kind. You just got to take people. We used to have a problem at one of our movie theaters where we would have these massive teenage crowds would show up, and they would start. You'd have 2 or 3 people get into a fight, and that would be like, then it was like a feeding frenzy. Well, we would snatch 2 or 3 people out of that crowd and arrest them. And that dispersed people very quickly, and then within a couple of weeks, we didn't have any problems at all because they're like, whoa, these cops aren't screwing around.
Yeah. And I don't know what the Florida law is on tinted windows, but in Louisiana, they would have been illegal. They're very dark. They were limo tinted windows. Mm-hmm. So something that either Ocho or Shannon Sharp, like I said, I like both of them guys. I think they're intelligent guys who have made good points. One thing I disagree, I think it was Ocho. One thing I disagree with him was he said that they knew very early on that it was Tyreek. So they should have known it wasn't a threat. No. He had tinted windows. You couldn't see inside. They had a legal right to have him either get out of the vehicle or roll that window down so they could see his hands. Because it's Tyreek Hill, that does not mean he's not a threat. The man's got a history of violence. What if he had just beat his wife or killed his wife and was speeding because of that? And he kills the officers. So I don't give a fuck who it is.
Hey,
that's
Jim,
not a valid point.
James, let me ask you a question. Do we know of any football players that are well known that might have been involved in a violent crime and killed a couple people?
OJ was coming out of my mouth when I said it, Tommy.
It's not to say a football player can't be a threat. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, I totally agree with that. And like I said, I think a lot of Ocho, I like Ocho. Shit, I like Ocho more than I like Shannon. And they made some good points. They were respectful. They disagreed with some things. Also, they disagreed with some things with that Tyreek deal. So did Stephen A. Smith. I have so much respect for those guys for recognizing that and respecting and if they heard my point, I hope they respect it. Don't give a fuck if they knew it was Tyreek. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. What matters comes down to what we just said at the beginning, Tommy. The orders he was given was lawful, non-compliance every single time. So when we start, Tyreek could go on this tour to try to bring people together. You know what tour needs to be? Hey, number one, don't break the law. Number two, if you do break the law and you get caught breaking the law, do what the fuck the police tell you to do. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And and I don't know why I do think that there's a little bit of an understanding gap in what I'm about to say with the public. But, the police officers have bosses. And if you get arrested or have a run-in with an officer that you feel didn't go the way you think it should have, do what the officer says, take up your case in court, and then go to the police department or call the police department and talk to that officer's supervisor. And maybe there will be either an understanding of why what happened, or they'll investigate it and find out that maybe the officer didn't do everything that they should have done, and they can address it. But the point is, everyone's accountable.
Yep.
When I was the chief of police, I had a boss. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody has a boss. And so for people to sit there and say, well, the police are rogue and they do whatever they want and they shouldn't have done this. Well, if you don't like what the police are doing, then contact their boss. Simple as that.
That was
and just the only other thing I was going to say is that goes right along with the compliance. If you comply, even if you don't like what's going on, you will never be hurt or injured or anything. You will simply, even if you are wrongfully taken into custody, it will be a peaceful arrest, and then you can take it up later.
That was almost word for word what Shannon Sharp said too.
Really? Yeah, I didn't see any of that coverage. I was out on the train today.
No, Shannon said the same thing. Now he was definitely faulted what the police officers did. And he had some, like I said, he had some good points. But he also said that he's going to go home to his kids. He's not going to be one of those statistics and try to have justice on the side of the road. And I've said that before too. I'm not saying everything, and you're the same way, Tommy. I'm not saying that everything a police officer does is right. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a process. There's a process. And we share responsibilities as law enforcement administrators. You and I are former law enforcement administrators, and the ones that took our place, they have a responsibility. You and I took that serious. They have a responsibility to take complaints serious, or you're going to have, I can tell you what, Cauchy Parish, if it was a Cauchy Parish deputy, there wasn't a person, and I can still say that to this day, there isn't a person that should be having their say on the side of the road, because if they have a complaint, it's going to be taken serious. And if the officer's wrong, it's going to be dealt with seriously.
Right. We were the same exact way. Yep.
Well, I know it's late tonight. You got to get up, but I wanted to, and I do too. I wanted to address that tonight and get that. That's been on my mind all day, because I just think it's the right thing to do for us to stand up for these cops and not let any more become what happened, what is still happening, because three of them are still in prison. What happened in Minneapolis. Cannot let cops keep going down over political pressure.
That's right.
So give some closing words, Tommy.
I'll raise a glass to you for that.
Oh, golly, my bad. You know we got to raise a glass to? What is today?
Yeah. Today is September 11th.
September 11th.
Yes.
And I'm going to say this, even if it's controversial, because of what's going on right now. There were police officers, firefighters, first responders who lost their lives in 9/11. It wasn't a motherfucking football player that lost their life in 9/11 rescuing people. So we got to respect them, and we've got to take up for them when it's time to take up for them. So let's do a toast to all the first responders who died in 9/11. You know what? Everybody that died in 9/11. Here's to you. You will never be forgotten.
Cheers.
All right, Tommy.
Beautifully said, my friend.
So, and you got any closing words for us till next time?
Honestly, I think we should leave it with what you said because that was beautiful and you hit the nail on the head.
Good deal. So until next time, McGee and Wells are out.